Well, a Trump trade deal has been announced with the European Union. In this, I'm going to give you details not just from Trump, but what the European Commission just said, which is going to give us more details into exactly what was negotiated, which is quite useful. Now, forgive me, I'm recording from the gym / the Blackboard studio, so we're going to throw this together quickly because it is breaking news, and after coming back from a run, I'm like, whoa, that was fast. All right, so I'm going to start from the bottom up because you're going to get the most unique information here first. So the energy deal that Donald Trump talked about, that there is going to be a $750 billion purchase of U.S. energy, that was inspired because the European Union says they want Russian energy out. Now, they could just be signaling that because they've been saying that forever. So that could just be sort of a cover for what's going on. But the agreement apparently is to purchase $750 billion of U.S. energy over the next 3 years. Now, this is critical because, frankly, as an investor, I'm kind of tired of hearing about all these like $500 billion commitments from Apple to start investing in America, or more than they have been investing. And I look, okay, that's 100% of their free cash flow for the next 4 years. But okay, where are the actual investments? And when you look, most of the investments are really just kind of getting kicked down the road. It's almost like they're being announced to gain favor in the Trump administration, and then we'll see when we make the investments, right? This is a little unique. It's actually better. It indicates that there will be $250 billion of purchases from the EU for U.S. energy per year over the next 3 years. Then I became sort of like inquisitive about this a little bit. And it turns out in 2023, the United States already became the largest supplier of liquefied natural gas for the European Union, accounting for nearly half of their already liquefied natural gas sort of imports beyond their production. The price of this varies because the price of LNG fluctuates a lot. But LNG exports to the EU were only about $13 billion in 2024. So when we look at total energy exports, we're going to have to start including not just liquefied natural gas, but also oil. Now, in 2023, the European Union imported $57 billion of oil from the United States. But now, if you combine these together, you could see what this trade deal is really demanding. We're going to be going from $70 billion, so LNG and oil combined, to $250 billion per year. Now, the president of the European Commission says the details of this are still to be determined in terms of how they actually pull this off. But that is actually pretty impressive. So you got to give Trump credit here. That's impressive because what you're really doing is you're 3.5xing your exports of U.S. energy to Europe. Now, this is kind of also a way to give a middle finger to OPEC plus, and this is by design, right? We want to incentivize our American oil producers to open more wells. And what we've seen over the last couple of years is well counts have actually been plummeting because there is so much supply and the price of oil has been falling. But if we can guarantee more US or WTI blend purchases through these trade deals, as opposed to the European Union going to OPEC plus, it might give a premium to a US barrel, basically leading to more production in the United States. So you got to give credit. I mean, that sounds good. All of these things so far sound good. The European Commissioner says today we are at a tariff rate of 27.5% on autos. That's 25 plus 2.5. That gets down to 15% via this new sort of blanket tariff rate. Now, what's interesting is the European Union actually negotiated. They're one of the first to do this. They negotiated in sectoral tariffs. They said, we're only going to do this 15% flat rate if you include semiconductors and pharmaceuticals, which Trump, as of 2 hours ago, said would not be included, and then did end up including them. Maybe those were part of the 3 or 4 sort of leftover items to be negotiated there. Now, that's a big deal because it's really the first country to fully incorporate sectoral tariffs. In my video this morning, we talked about how Japan is Trump's announcing that Japan's going to invest $550 billion into U.S. corporations or projects, and Japan's like, wait, what? only if it makes sense. Like, we didn't sort of pitch it like that. So obviously the devil's always in the details of all of this. And of course, each side is going to want to come across as, oh, we just made the greatest deal ever. I mean, that's literally what the EU is doing. They're like, oh, hey, this is the largest deal that we've ever done. Sorry about that. So what you really find is, everybody's wanting to brag about how good these things are, but you also see the frustration in the EU commissioner's commentary, because in the press conference, she's like, well, we did the best we could. We couldn't get any lower, but we don't want to go to 30% tariffs on everything, because then autos would go from 27.5 to 30, but everything else would go from 10 to 30, which would be remarkable, or in many cases 20 to 30. So it'd be a large step up. So 15 is better. That doesn't still mean that there won't be tariff impacts. Hopefully I phrased that correctly. Basically, tariff impacts could obviously still occur. They might just take, 6 months to a year to actually fully hit us, especially since Chinese tariffs at 55% are likely this week to just get kicked down the road another 90 days before we finalize a real deal with China. So now Donald Trump is also pitching that the European Union will make $600 billion in more investments in the United States. We're unclear if this is very similar to sort of just a Japan deal. But we do also hear that the Europeans are saying, hey, like, this is good because it also gives us access to not only the U.S. market, but potentially Mexico. So it's better to have this deal than nothing. Obviously, it's still going to hurt some people. Like, even the EU commissioner acknowledged this. Like, these tariffs will affect people, like companies. Like, there will be problems associated with this, but this is better than the alternative scenario, which is no deal and then even higher tariffs, right? She also talks about on steel and aluminum, there's still work to be done here, but they face a common external challenge. Without saying it, she's basically referring to China, which is interesting because Europe, the European Union and China have been cozying up together, but there's been murmuring about like maybe them not being able to get along as well as they had originally thought during Trump liberation time. Maybe that also helped motivate a deal with Donald Trump here. There won't be any stacking on top of this 15% deal. This is a, quote, clear ceiling, will include cars, pharma, chips, almost everything. And there will be zero tariffs on the following: aircraft component parts, certain chemicals, certain generic pharmaceuticals, and semiconductor equipment. In this case, you should really be thinking about like maybe some of your Siemens products for lasers, or even like ASML chip equipment manufacturing machines. Okay, that's a big word. And we've done so much analysis with course members and the course member live streams on ASML. It's really a unique company. It drives the innovation in chip manufacturing across the entire world because they're basically the machine that makes the chips, the wafer products. They produce the machines, and they're from the Netherlands. And so it looks like there won't be any tariffs on ASML products, which is huge. Like, when we talk about this in the course member live stream tomorrow, we really need to analyze and look for what this tactically could mean for certain individual names exposed previously to tariffs and now potentially no longer. Agricultural products, again, aircraft components, both sides, and what we also have would be a critical raw minerals on both sides. So they do mention that they're going to keep working on deals here. We'll see how it goes. Remember, you've still got another 4 or 5 days here before August 1st, and at the end of the month, we'll also have the expiration of the, quote, release the files coupon. We might be getting rid of the lifetime access, but we are definitely going to raise the price. So if you want to get in before that coupon expires, use coupon code release the files at meetkevin.com. I'm going to get back to training for the marathon. By the way, if you have not yet seen, I also put out a job posting. I'll pin it to my profile on X. Actually, it's my most recent post on X. But if you want to see it, it's my most recent post on X. And yeah, check it out. Thanks. Bye.